Milla, please, you're recreating Keanu's gun scene from Point Break all wrong. Someone's gonna get hurt. Jesse Shade here for Awfully Good Movies on behalf of the JoBlo YouTube network. And before screenwriter Kurt Wimmer was tragically passed over for a Best Original Screenplay Oscar for writing the Jason Statham action epic The Beekeeper, he was making his name as a director as well, with Christian Bale starring in his 2002 sci-fi dystopian epic Equilibrium, which would find a loving cult audience in spite of its poor critical reception and box office. But the same could not be said for Wimmer's even worse received directorial follow-up, also set in a futuristic dystopia of the 21st century, where Milla Jovovich is one of a rebel group of HEMOPHAGEs, or as non-stupid people would call them, vampires, standing up against the fascist police trying to wipe their infected kind off the earth, using a virus that has infected the bald kid from X-Men 3. So for those of you who wanted Children of Men to have more sword battles and vampires and the hot chick from Resident Evil, then let our horror expert Tyler Nichols tell you all about the ultraviolence of Ultraviolet for this bloodthirsty episode of Awfully Good Movies.
If anyone's seen Equilibrium, then despite it being very dated these days, it still has some really slick action, which writer-director Kurt Wimmer dubbed gun kata. It's very Matrix-like, but it's just different enough that it doesn't feel super derivative, and it also gave him the ability to make whatever sci-fi story he dreamt up next. And unfortunately for all of us, that ended up being Ultraviolet. To really get an idea of how much of a shit show this whole thing was, Milla Jovovich was locked out of the editing room, despite initially being promised that she'd have input. Though, I'm sure she had input on Monster Hunter, and we saw how that turned out. If you were fortunate enough to avoid this movie, then I'm sorry. You're about to get a crash course in one of the worst films ever made. Because despite releasing in 2006, this feels like an early 2000s movie in every sense of the word. Terrible digital effects, and a blown-out image that makes my eyes hurt. Despite there being plenty of competition, this may just be the worst Milla Jovovich movie. Now for an awfully good drinking game, take a swig every time the camera goes into someone's glasses and transitions out. You will not believe how much this happens. Let's get this shit show started. They have to let us know right off the bat that this is based on a comic book with its super comic Wait, it's not? So this entire opening is just comic book panels that don't even exist? It's like they're trying to trick you because franchises like Spider-Man and X-Men were doing well at the time. And I'll be honest, these covers look a hell of a lot more interesting than the film that we got, with this lady cutting up dudes like they're butter. It raises the expectations and makes you go, oh shit, we're gonna see some people get sliced and diced. Only to have our first bit of live-action footage where these ninjas roll in like they're playing Metroid and slice these scientists up with their swords. Only they just fall down, with absolutely zero blood or gore. Listen, I get it, they wanted a PG-13 rating, but why did they have to neuter it all so much? Also, someone at Marvel may have watched this movie because these ninjas look very much like Night Monkey from Spider-Man Far From Home. And despite their over-the-top entrance, these guys are taken out in the lamest of ways. But at least we finally get to find out what the hell they are.
HEMOPHAGEs.
And as you can tell by the fangs, these HEMOPHAGEs are essentially just vampires. They're super OP but have a short lifespan.
My god. Ross.
And why the hell is every person ADR'd? No one's lips actually sync up with what they're saying. Makes all the dialogue so disjointed and awkward.
Yes, I was born into a world you may find hard to understand.
Wholly out of nowhere voiceover, Batman. And what the fuck is with these effects? This was 2006. How did you manage to make one of the worst cityscapes that has ever been put to film? Thankfully, we've got Milla Jovovich to give us so much exposition, because apparently they'd never heard of the idea of showing, not telling. We get her whole backstory with the stereotypical partner gets killed and her life is turned upside down trope. Her name is Violet, and she's a hemophage set to take down the system. Oh, and her hair changes color for reasons. I'm not gonna lie, when I was a kid, I thought this was a cool concept, and now I really don't see the point. And it's not just her hair, she changes her whole outfit. This is nothing but video game logic. But if there was one thing going for this movie, it's that Milla Jovovich is still insanely hot, so Resident Evil and Fifth Element fans will be pleased. There's my one positive. And with all of these tests they're running on her, it's pretty mind-blowing how long it takes for them to finally figure out that she's a hemophage. Seems like they'd be onto her much sooner, but instead it takes the group that she's imitating to come up and blow her plan.
Then it wasn't me, you dumb son of a bitch. Check my ID. You got a mite.
This lady is such a Mary Sue that it's kind of hilarious. She can do anything and everything. Even having a bunch of guns in her face does absolutely nothing outside of change her clothes and hair. At this point, she is so overpowered that there's no way in hell that anything can take her out. Her motorcycle getaway feels like a bad video game, which I'm going to be saying a lot. And as much as people bitch about the MCU for having bad CGI, no, this is bad CGI. Bad textures, physics that doesn't make sense. This is so embarrassing that I feel bad for anyone involved in this overly stylized mess. Violet steals this case that she thinks is a weapon, only for it to actually be a little boy that may have an antigen in his blood that will wipe out the hemophages. At least that's what she's told.
It's not a weapon. It's a child.
It's both.
Why do all of these hemophages look like such douchebags? I feel like I'd run into them at the nearby beach telling me that the surf is only for locals. So she takes the child and is immediately put in a bad situation, with another gang completely surrounding her. Only we've already seen that she's more than capable of dealing with this, so there's no real tension here. It's just about waiting for her to kill them all. But what stood out to me the most in this scene is all of the awkward edits. They want to do all these fancy passing around people and changing shots, only they mess up the edit multiple times. Has anyone here heard of a wipe transition before? Well, thank God we get shots like going into her ear and then coming out of the barrel of a gun. Drink up, folks. And the first shot fired, Violet doesn't even do anything. This guy just totally shoots his boss and entirely misses her. Violet is not only overpowered, but she's also the luckiest person in existence. And the action is always so rapid that it's over in an instant.
What are you doing up there, huh?
Just give her the Oscar now.
Do you know who I am?
How could I not? Tyrant, egomaniac, narcissist. That about sums it up, doesn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, the best character in the film. Ferdinand Daxus, President of Earth. Whether it's Chronicles of Riddick or Con Air, Nick Chinland is always a standout, and here is no different. And with how lame Violet is as a main character, we really just have the bad guy to give the film some life. And he drinks his coffee out of the most absurd cup because, you know, the future!
My phone number changes every 60 seconds.
What is with this movie and completely unnecessary technology? If your phone number changes that much, how could anyone ever get a hold of you? What's even the point of having a phone? Just get one that only dials out if you don't want phone calls. And even still, Garth is able to call her.
Party on, Garth.
No, not that Garth. I fucking wish. Instead, it's William Fichtner, who is far too good to be in this absolute dumpster fire. So Violet and the kid are on the run, and she even has this little moment where she's gonna send the kid on his own, only to then have to hunt him down. Oh, and a little kid gets killed in the process. When she finally finds him again, she's hoping that she can make his blood into some kind of cure for the hemophages. Wimmer tries to shoot some of the action scenes like a Hong Kong action film, but what's actually happening with the frame is lame as hell. Dear God. And I love how these morons' way of ambushing her is to all close in on her at the same time and make themselves an easy target. She even destroys this main hemophage who totally kicked ass earlier and offs him so easily. What was even the point in setting him up to be so powerful if you're gonna just take him out with zero effort? Eventually, she finds out that the kid's blood actually features an antigen that would wipe out all human life, because wouldn't you know it, Ferdinand Daxus is actually a hemophage. See, he wants to create a whole quote-unquote cure that would require daily dosing and therefore be extremely lucrative. We'll find out later that he's actually the one that created the hemophage virus to begin with.
He's my clone, a vampire and a dying human child.
Wait, what the hell?
Vampire, vampire, vampire.
Why did they say the V word here? Why isn't that just the term? It's universal and doesn't need all this explaining as to what a hemophage is. It wouldn't be so annoying if they had just avoided the term vampire overall, but it's right there.
Vampire, vampire, vampire.
A kid randomly dies in Violet's arms after falling off a merry-go-round? Apparently this just takes away Violet's will to live, so she just lets Ferdinand shoot her in the stomach? Why would he not shoot her in the head, or go as excessive as he did when trying to shoot her hologram? Well, I know why, because Garth has to save her life, for reasons. But thank God this movie isn't over quite yet, because we're about to get the greatest transition ever. What is with the scale in this movie? There is absolutely no way that this room fits inside that semi-truck. Time and space are so confusing here, and her teleportation abilities are unmatched. Except I have no idea why she was even taking guys out on the roof when she literally just walks through the front door. And we don't even get to see her take these guys out, it's all just the aftermath. Though I'm sure we can guess as to how it happened. Despite these guys wearing all white, we get completely bloodless kills, and it feels like something out of Power Rangers. Though when we do finally get blood, you'll never guess what happens. Because of course it does. I've been trashing this movie a lot in this video, so let's take a look at something I actually like. Uzi blades! Sure, they still result in bloodless kills, but at least they look kinda cool. By the time she finally makes her way to Daxus, we get a sword fight between the two, where it's clearly stunt doubles most of the time. At least we get this cool fire sword out of it, which, let's be honest, is very appropriate, but I can't tell what the hell is happening. And people bitch about that episode of Game of Thrones. At least it ends in a pretty cool death for Daxus. And the little boy is somehow alive despite everyone saying he's dead. Because apparently one of Violet's tears turned him into a hemophage. Which, shouldn't the doctors have been able to detect that? I know Wimmer and Jovovich claim that there was massive studio interference here, but come on. There's no way there's even a glimmer of good in this. Which is why I'm giving this an awfully good rating of a D-. There's some dumb fun to be had here, but it's also so infuriating with how inept it is. Oh, I need a palate cleanser next. Something that reminds me why I love so bad it's good cinema. Oh god. Have you seen Ultraviolet? Am I the only one that remembers this 2006 turd? Seeing it in theaters is burned into my memory like a bad nightmare. Please commiserate with me in the comments.
All those still out there who spread oppression, injustice, and hatred, they better hope not.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It's awfully good. It's awfully good. Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.